as you all know, a preamble. Never really engaged with this Jimmy the Giant person's content before. But this was a suggested video, sent to me by Zane. And they suggested me originally to examine this video for my Attack on Gamergate arc that I engaged with. And just like Boy Meets Mini says, yeah, kind of like Dark Matter, but sort of actually fell into the alt-right pipeline, but got out of it. And I watched the video, and I think it's a solid video, but I didn't think it was appropriate for what I ultimately wanted to be covering in the Attack on Gamergate arc that I was engaging in. I thought it was more valuable for covering other topics. And that is the main right-wing strategy of politics. Especially, I don't know if it's like, if it's safe to say it's like a modern advent. I don't think that's necessarily correct. I wouldn't say this is the next logical step. I don't think so, Boy Meets Mini. I think this is sort of a more differing topic. It certainly can feed into the sort of Attack on Gamergate arc that I sort of engaged with. I think it's more important of talking about the sort of ideological, the real ideological sort of pinnings of the right wing, the actual reasons for as to how the right wing engages in politics, that the way that they do. The right does not do anything out of the good of their own heart. I've said this before. They're demons. They want to kill you. They hate you. They want to make your life worse. Blah, 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 blah. You know, hyperbole, yada, yada, yada. But it's all to serve for one purpose and one purpose only. To maintain the hierarchy of the capitalist on top with all the little fucking worker bees at the bottom. They do all of this culture war bullshit all the time as a distraction so they can run out of the piggy bank of the Fed, of the government, out the fucking back door with the money. This has been more or less a tried and true strategy for, I don't know, as long as you've engaged with like what conservative politics are. But let's get into it. Let's engage with the video, shall we?
Is brought to you by Squarespace. Yes, my brothers, my brodies, my woadies. I'm gonna do
British. Sorry, I had to get it out of my system. I apologize.
another one of these little talk to cams. You might have noticed, you know, through some of my videos, I officially joined the woke brigade. It's unfortunate. I didn't really want to.
Woke.
I'm going to talk how we got here.
DEI
My political
woke.
arc has been pretty insane. At one point, I was in a Nico Malama video supporting Trump. That's me. I'll admit it. Blurry boy.
Trump Reporters UK. I'm here. Look at my hat. I love Donald Trump.
So today we're going to talk about how I managed to escape the alt-right pipeline.
Up yours, woke moralists.
So that's why I wanted to sort of, you know, talk about this initially, because he's in the Gamergate arc, because it's about, oh, here's how I escaped the alt-right pipeline. I'm just like, okay, you know, this could be a good sort of final bow. Or like maybe it would be interesting to have the sort of perspective of like what an alt-righter self-described, I'm assuming here based off of what Jimmy is saying here, how he sort of got out of that. I guess it's either that or like you could also do the Xander Hall video as well, but like I don't really care about the Xander Hall video all that much. I haven't seen the Xander Hall video, but I'm assuming it's probably like, it probably would have been a better sort of video to engage with on my Attack of Gamergate arc, but you know, of like an alt-writer sort of perspective, but like I wasn't sure if I really would like value that sort of position. I more or less already did that with like the first part of it with the dark matter video, so I didn't necessarily think it's valuable. And you know, we got Kermit, oh no, Chaos Dragon women, Chinese cock milking, yeah.
How big is Luton? It's 200,000 population.
Oh,
and how many? 45.
Oh, there's this fucking dumbass. This little fucking like little dumbass over here. This Tommy Robinson. This fucking dipshit.
There will never be peace on this earth so long as we have this book. It's a violent and cursed book.
Attacks on mosques, other minority communities singled out, wanton
terrorism
alongside racist rhetoric.
Real and true. Racist.
When I was a young gangster, a YG, I was a little bruh, right? A little bruh. I'm about 13 years old, and we're invited into school. It was mandatory, we weren't invited. And we had to do a speech. So, you know, my mate goes up and he does the history.
Now, while these riots happened, Tommy was vacationing in Cyprus. I don't necessarily know if it's like Tommy was vacationing in Cyprus, but I think it was probably more like he was trying to make sure he wasn't going to be caught by the feds for inciting a terrorist attack. But, yeah, I guess vacationing is a term that you can use there.
Of Chelsea Football Club. A girl goes up and she does about horse riding. I go up with my little thumb drive, plug it in, 9/11. So I basically proceed to radicalize a classroom of young impressionable 13-year-olds as to why the American government did 9/11.
Who do you believe was behind 9/11?
Yeah, so he used to be a little bit of a conspiratorial guy. So, you know, do we really want to engage with like the sort of conspiracism? I mean, the American Central Intelligence Agency did know about the 9/11 attacks that were coming, but they didn't really properly respond to it. I'm not caught up entirely on like 9/11 conspiracism, you know, jet fuel melting steel beams meme and all that whatever nonsense. What we do know is that there was a bunch of Salafist extremists. 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi Arabian. There was also the attack on the Pentagon. Like, we all know the meme of, oh, they also hit the Pentagon! You know, that thing. But, did the U.S. government have a hand in, like, perpetrating the 9/11 attacks? Probably not. They just didn't respond to the fucking 9/11 attacks well at all. That's really about it.
9/11.
Criminal elements of the military-industrial complex, the same ones that staged Gulf of Tonkin, the same ones that staged Operation, the mass shootings of Operation Gladio.
Right.
Ooh,
I was in this kind of like early conspiracy theory bubble, but what I want to say is it was interesting, right? Because at that time, being a conspiracy theorist wasn't left and right; it was just anti-establishment. And so, whilst I was listening to Alex Jones, I'd also be listening to the Young Turks and listening about Occupy Wall Street. So when I was young, I was just...
Yeah, but here's the... Okay, this is where I kind of disagree immediately here with, like, Jimmy a little bit. It's like that's not, like, really conspiratorial. Occupy, whatever you have to say about Occupy, was it, like, sort of, like, tangible and, like, more real? Like, they were... It was kind of like a sort of disparate factions of, like, left-leaning people talking about, like, hey, personally, we don't like getting fucked over by Wall Street and them causing a fucking recession. Because that's what Occupy was sort of a response to, right? The fucking 2008 crash. The Great Recession of 2008. Was, like, TYT engaging with that in, like, a conspiratorial sense? Probably not. They probably mostly agreed and talked about, like, yeah, here's why Occupy is good. Because fuck Wall Street. And true, yeah, fuck Wall Street.
A sort of contrarian hipster. I'm not like a communist, but I'm definitely not a capitalist. And I'm definitely left-wing, and I definitely voted to remain in the EU referendum. And so time goes by, I grow up,
Yeah.
and I remember I
I don't
had
remember
a
that
few
either.
jobs working like fucking Sainsbury's or B&Q, and that was further fueling my sort of anti-capitalist feelings. But I remember I got one job and I met this geezer, and he was a proper right-winger.
Capitalism is good because capitalism is freedom. Socialism is bad because socialism is tyranny.
It was like
So
a right-winger in the flesh. I'd never seen one before. I was like, what the fuck the hell is this? Capitalism good? Welfare state bad?
Real Ben.
NHS bad? But you see, although I deeply disagreed with all of his views at the beginning, you gotta remember 13-year-old contrarian Jimmy. He's...
Yeah, and this is sort of where it sort of starts. The consequences of contrarianism, where it's really easy to sort of like, you know, if depending on how you posit the argument, it's really easy for people to sort of like agree to go against a particular culture just because, like, well, you know, like especially since he was talking to a like proper conservative, my assumptions is that the dude probably more than likely talked about like, oh, how the government's like controlling everything and that's like fucking communism. Obviously, it's all fucking bad because, you know, look at all this state control. It's bad, 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 shit like that. This is how, like, you can have like contrarian like left wingers and right wingers because it's all about, there's like no fundamental ideological fucking like route to talking about particular fucking issues. It's all about like, well, I heard that this thing was bad because of these fucking reasons, so that's just kind of like what I'm going with, kind of a deal. Prime target for like radicalization. Like, it's the same shit with Marxist fucking Leninists. Same thing with like conservatives, like whether it be like alt-righters, libertarians, all these fucking people. It's cool to be a part of a counterculture and not be a part of the establishment, per se. Which is why, very often, when the right-wingers very often talk about these issues, they never really talk about, like, their sort of ideological predilections on what they believe how an economy should be ran. They'll have, like, sort of broad general talking points about, like, capitalism that has, like, whatever particular dumb fuck benefits, which are typically easy to counter because you can be like, well, okay, we can also talk about the consequences of capitalism. You could throw statistics at them or whatever, which is not necessarily going to be effective on like a contrarian sort of 13-year-old. They're not really going to give a fuck about any of that stuff. Like, maybe they will. It depends. Who the fuck knows? That's not like a surefire way, especially like nowadays where reality doesn't really matter anymore. But like, where exactly was I going with this? But this is like how the like right wingers are able to sort of like posit in their eventual sort of like ways to radicalize people who are inherently want to be anti-establishment. They can easily say like, oh, how we're the counterculture because we're going against the woke ideology that everyone's putting, that's like going on all the time or whatever, like nonsense. Or like, oh, we sure hate those communists because we're the ones who told Gorbachev to tear down that wall in Berlin or whatever. And communism is stinky, not because of like anything that Karl Marx said, but because it's tyrannical, because the USSR was a really bad representation for communism. Thank you, Stalin. Very cool. Thank you, Marxist-Leninists. Very cool. They're tainting communism for probably generations to come, making it a much less palatable fucking system to the general populace. But, you know, that's that. They're never actually going to talk about any of, like, the economic stuff that, like, the good stuff. There is good stuff that you can say that the Soviet Union did, that the communist system did, you know, like the heavy subsidization of housing, heavy subsidization of like industrial projects and stuff, public works programs and stuff like that. Lots of stuff you can you can compliment, or like say a lot of like public eateries as well. Very, very common. Literacy programs, education, lots of stuff you can talk about. That doesn't necessarily also like exclude a lot of the sort of state bureaucratic mechanisms that the Soviet Union used in order to maintain the hierarchy. Because again, the reason why I say Soviet Union is very conservative is because it's about maintaining the state hierarchy, similar to just how capitalists within like America maintain hierarchy with the capitalists on top. Same fucking shit with the Soviet Union. But instead of capitalists, it's the party on top. You must always listen to and believe in everything the party. You can't think out of a particular other lens. Maintenance of hierarchies, which is about as conservative as it fucking gets.
Still in there somewhere. And what he's hearing is contrarian views, you say. Anti-establishment. Non-mainstream. Little old hipster Jimmy lapped up this sort of right-wing rhetoric because I realised it was different to everyone else, and that would make me interesting if I believed all these things, right? And
it's literally Kanye West shit, right? Like, I'm a contrarian, so I'm gonna be like a fucking Nazi because I hate Hollywood. Literally the same shit that happened with Kanye.
Like, when I say right-wing, it's not, you know, we don't like foreigners. It's stuff like this.
The people who get on welfare lose their human independence
and
feeling of dignity. They become subject to the dictates and whims of their welfare supervisor, who can tell them whether they can live here or there, whether they may put in a telephone, what they may do with their lives. They're treated like children.
So now
So yeah, here's the sort of immediate sort of talking point. Like, what exactly was... That guy was pretty clearly right-wing and was talking about people being on welfare. That's probably, like, from the 80s or some shit. The whole, like, welfare queen idea. People go on welfare not because they want to, but because they fucking have to, right? But they have to kowtow it because, generally speaking, welfare programs are very popular. But they have to kowtow it in, like, all this, like, cultural, like, language, like... Oh, look at your individualism being taken away, when that's not how that works. If anything, like, the right wing makes it such that they're taking away your individualism by being on welfare, because you have to be, like, forced to do fucking certain things whilst on fucking welfare, like trying to find a job. And sometimes it's like, well, your benefits are now fucked now because you can't find a job. It's like, well, that's not their problem. Like, job market could just be fucked at that time. Like, what do you like? What do you want? But this is where we're sort of getting into it. It's a lot of, like, shit from the fucking 80s.
At the doors of the alt-right pipeline, right? I pick up my hat with the light, turn the torch on, grab my pickaxe, and I head in. And the first stop is Jordan Peterson.
And then if I'd said to you, please, I'd rather go by she, how would you respond to that on a personal level? How would...
The way I have responded to that, because I've had a number of conversations with transgendered individuals, is that I use whatever pronoun seems to go along with the persona that they're projecting publicly.
That they're projecting publicly. What if they're like, again, like, immediate counter argument. What if they're not projecting a particular persona that you agree with, or like that you think is like accurate or whatever? Are you just gonna, like, straight disrespect them in their face or some shit? What if you have, like, a trans woman who's done, like, no fucking social transition at all, is still, like, very male presenting? Are you gonna refer to them as she or some shit? They're projecting a they're a trans woman. They're a woman. They identify as a trans woman, but they've gone through, like, none of the sort of steps, initial steps needed in order to begin that sort of transition. Would, like, Jordan Peterson just he, him them or some shit? Or he, him, her? There we go. He would have to, by that logic, right? Directly just being transphobic, because nice meme, dude.
How can I describe the fact that someone who was once a woman, and really still is, had her breasts cut off because she, he, they, their, them had fallen...
This is his, like, Elliot Page, like, schizoid rant after his brain got cooked off of benzos and he went to Russia for his fucking, like, weirdo coma treatment or some shit. And he just lost his fucking mind. Because, again, Jordan Peterson can't focus on anything else besides, like, this is why I say, like, transphobia is like a fucking mental disorder, dude. Like, transphobes can't think of anything else besides the gawk. The gawk is always on Jordan Peterson's mind. He thinks of nothing besides girl cock. Like, he can't think of, like, nothing else, like, functions in this man's brain. It's nothing but girl cock.
fallen prey to a viciously harmful fad.
So bear in mind, I didn't go to university. I went and just tried to make little businesses. I did a parkour brand. I ran a vegan food store. I did lots of little things. And very importantly, I was not academic. Jordan Peterson, to young Jimmy, sounded like...
Yeah, very important. Yeah, not academic. Because again, that's a lot of the people that right-wingers catch. Not academic. You know me and him have a lot in common. What, you and Jimmy, you say, Zane? It'd be like that sometimes.
Like how I imagine smart people sound.
So even if you do happen to be that avatar of moral purity that...
Oh, by the way, when I was like starting my fucking political journey and back in like early 2019, late 2018, YouTube was giving me a bunch of Jordan Peterson. And I watched some of his fucking lectures. Oh, you're talking about only thinking about girl cock. Okay, gotcha. It gave me some Jordan Peterson lectures. I watched some, and I was just like, okay. They never really enticed me at all. Like, I never really cared about them. It also gave me a bunch of Tim Pool. And then it fucking directly went to James Alsup. And I was just like, I don't know why I'm being suggested James Alsup. And then I checked one of his videos, and it was like some anti-SJW shit. The same shit that you'd hear in like 2014. I'm like, okay, I need to like get the fuck out of here, dude. This is like some fucking dog shit. Christ.
You claim implicitly the probability that you'd get to act out your goodness in relationship to those possessed by your ideology is zero.
He would use.
I don't even know what the fuck is Jordan even talking about there in that clip? I have no idea. That's why I hate like looking at anything that Jordan Peterson says, because you just sit there and you're wondering, you're like, bro, what are you waffling on about? You sound like you're about to cry. Like you're about to break down in tears. Like what the fuck is wrong with you? I can't understand the guy watching the guy to me. It's basically just a guy trying to use as many big words as possible and as he can. I can't read that sentence. I can't stand watching the guy. To me, it's basically just a guy trying to say as many big words as he can, and only get like 2/3 of them right. That's pretty much like Jordan Peterson's whole shtick. Yeah, he tries to make he like uses words, and it's just like you sit there and you're just like, okay, those mean things, but like why are you using this in these particular connotations? It's just kind of weird, you know. Like, what are you saying? Like, you sound like you're about to have like a breakdown. Like something's like, are you okay? Is something wrong? And again, like if you know anything about Jordan Peterson, like he unironically in like a paranoia, like similar to that of like a suburbanite, has like busts and like communist writings all over his house to constantly use as like a reminder to himself of like who his true enemy is. And it's just like, that's really fucking weird, bro. Like, why? Like, are you sure like it's supposed to be like a sort of reminder to you about like who you hate, and not just like some weird fucking paranoia about an empire that fell over 30 years ago? Are you sure? This is kind of weird. I'm smart. I can photosynthesis my words. Real.
Use big words. He would do this with his hands. He would think and contemplate. Like he was the sort of caricature of a smart person. And it was very interesting because all of his views tended to be quite contrarian to sort of mainstream views. And he would, again, like my friend, he would talk about the benefits of capitalism. He would talk about natural hierarchies and that it wasn't capitalism's fault for hierarchies, but hierarchies are natural. And so it's very interesting because if you think about what Jordan Peterson is and what he thinks and his words now, back in 2016, it was very different, right?
As a matter of respect, in fact, would you refer to a transfer?
Oh yeah, and by the way, there's a reason why Jordan Peterson only talks about culture and never about economics. Because if you use all the natural fucking hierarchy shtick and talking points when talking about economics, even like any layman, anyone can have a basic understanding and just be like, what are you fucking talking about? Anybody can just be like, bro, what are you waffling on about? Which is why, like I said before, the right can't really defend the economic system at all, or the economics that they are trying to push for, which is concentration of more and more wealth to this, as few of hands as possible, and also to themselves, because they're going to directly benefit from like billionaires getting more and more money because they get paid by billionaires to say these things. So they have to kowtow basically, because they know that's not going to be a popular message. It's not going to speak well to normal people. So they know, like, well, fuck, we have to just like come up with as much bullshit as possible to throw at the fucking wall. So we have to talk about like trans people. We have to talk about the woke mind virus, the fucking in Jordan Peterson's case, fucking Bill C-16. That's what got him fucking famous to begin with. When, by the way, because of Bill C-16, it's been like 8 years. No, 9 years it'd be at this point. No one's gone to jail because of Bill C-16. It's not happened. It still hasn't happened. So yeah, you know. Whoa.
Who asked you to use the they them pronouns, a pronoun which has a several hundred-year historical.
But that's not what we're talking about.
He rises to fame.
Yeah, I don't know why he's talking about if he's compelled to. Like, it's very, like, that's automatically revealing that he just doesn't respect any person around him, because you're not being compelled to say a person's pronouns. It's out of a matter of respect for that human being. This is how you know, like, conservatives, they just hate humanity. They hate you, specifically, and only care about, like, profit. Because, like, Jordan Peterson thinks he's being compelled to use they-them pronouns. Like, it's not about being compelled, you idiot. It's about basic respectability, just, like, a respect for someone. Like, that's it. Which is why I'm going to now only refer to Jordan as a she, her. Jordan's a gender ambiguous game. I don't know. Jordan here could be a woman. I don't fucking know. I'm not compelled to use he, him for fucking Jordan Peterson. I don't feel compelled to use that at all. So, I don't know. Jordan over here is now a woman. Fuck it. We can do that. That's a game we can fucking play, Jordan. We can do that, buddy. It's real fucking easy, dude.
On what he is portraying as a free speech battle. The Canadian government are trying to make it so that if you say the wrong pronouns to
Bill
a
C-16.
transgender person, you will go to jail. And Jordan Peterson never says something like, I
don't
talked
about
Bill
C-16 earlier.
I don't believe I should say their pronouns. He's not saying that people who do transgender surgeries are butchers. He is saying that by law, I shouldn't be forced to say anything.
Difference between saying that there's something you can't say and saying that there are things that you have to say. And I regard these made-up pronouns, all of them, as the neologisms of radical PC authoritarians.
Words. Yeah, like I said, words. Those, they mean things. But it titillates the fucking, like, dipshit right-wingers, because just like, yeah, I don't like those guys because I don't like them. They're... I hate those PC neologian. I don't know what these words mean, but they're things I don't like.
As I grew up, I kind of realized he misrepresented this bill and he was blowing things out of proportion. But if we just take it on face value and believe what he was saying, then yeah, it seemed illogical to oppose what he was saying. And so whilst I'm going through Jordan Peterson's books, his podcasts, his speeches, etc., I'm getting this feeling that there's this sort of crazy, indoctrinated Marxist left who are trying to suppress your freedom and usher in communism. And so all this is happening all the way in Canada where no one gives a fuck about. But what about here in Britain? Right?
No one gives a shit about Canada.
We have a sort of similar scenario. And it involves a man, a very controversial man, by the name of Tommy Robinson.
Hi, Tommy.
Before we go any further, I want to give a massive shout out to today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace.
Advertisements? What the? No free promo. There's none.
and it will create a bus. If you're selling goods on, it's now buy now. Got a whole. You can tweet.com/JimmyTheGiant and to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain, use the code.
Sorry, I don't
Jimmy
care
the
about
Giant.
your
Anyway,
commercial.
back to the video.
Squarespace.
This book is the reason.
Manner
This book is the reason.
Oh, here's Piers, by the way. I wonder what Piers Morgan's up to these days. Yeah, buy Squarespace. I'm not sponsored by them. I have no idea if it's a good product or not. I've never used it because I've never had to build a website before. I'm sorry. Yeah, you know, this would have been 2014, right? Syrian refugee crisis, obviously. You know, one of the main basis of yeah, true. Can we get a sponsor by Dark Matter 2525? I'll appeal for that one, okay? Anywho, yeah, this was what? This would have been around 2014, right? Fucking Syrian refugee crisis. How many fucking Syrian refugees even went to Britain? It wasn't that many. Germany took the lion's share because they had population problems and they were stagnating. So there's like, why don't we supplement that with immigrants? And that's what they did. Whoa. Crazy, isn't it? But yeah, obviously, since we're talking about a dumbass fucking right-wing dipshit like Tommy Robinson, we have to have a conniption about all those dirty, stinky browns coming up to Europe to, I don't know, replace all the whites. Even though, like, quite literally the West, well, the Russians mostly are one of the bigger reasons why there was the Syrian refugee crisis, because Assad decided to do a bunch of barrel bomb attacks on on his own populace. And a lot of the general destabilizations of the Middle East thanks to the United States. Nice fucking meme.
This book is the reason we're in such a mess.
Oh yeah, and Tommy went to a jail, right?
Boys, I'm not proud of this, but I'm just being an honest person. I'm trying to explain where I was at, how I got to where I was, and how I am where I am now. So I come across Tommy Robinson in this period of time where he goes to jail for, as he's presenting it to the audience online, trying to report on Muslim grooming gangs. He goes to jail.
Yeah, it was the Muslim grooming gang shit, which was just complete fucking bullshit. Like, it was just... It's something that's, like, immediately fucking debunkable. Like, literally, like, the fucking AFD shit I was talking about literally yesterday. God. All the Muslim grooming gangs. Yeah, because Tommy Robinson alleged, like, in particular boroughs of, like, London or some shit, if I recall correctly, there's all these, like, Muslim enclaves that exist, and all they do is just, like, groom little girls into, you know, sex slaves or some shit. When there was just there was just nothing to base that off of. It was just made up. But, you know, it's easy to get fucking dipshit racists up in a tizzy about it. And quick reminder, I've said this before, but, like, if we're talking about, like, the sort of social progressivism meter, Europe's not very good at that. They're pretty bad at it. And, like, like, you know, dipshits like this, and like Lauren Southern as well, like, got fucking, like, really helped accelerate that sort of idea, because of the Syrian refugee crisis. Yeah, honestly, like, AFD is technically worse than these alleged fucking grooming gangs, because they're grooming fucking high schoolers into believing in a hate movement. Like, political fucking grooming. Like, unironically. So, you know. You know, it's all tomato, tomato, potato, potato.
And I see this as a suppression of journalism, a suppression of free speech by a tyrannical
Britain equals
government.
North Korea. It's so stupid.
You know, and I ignored the fact that it was contempt of court, and he knew exactly it was contempt.
Oh yeah, he did lie when he was. Yeah, he was contempt of court. He had a court date. He didn't show up for it, so. Is that what contempt of court is, if I recall correctly? Or was it... Perjury is when you're lying to the courts. Contempt of court. disobedient and disrespectful to a court of law. Oh, so he's just being a stupid piece of shit to like a judge or a fucking jury or some shit. That's why he went to jail. So yeah, not because of whatever stupid journalism he was doing. It's because he was just a fucking dumbass. Nice meme.
To court, and he did it deliberately to provoke this reaction, but the way it was being presented was very clever. Again, it was all about free speech. It wasn't about the underlying issue of Islam, etc., but it was just about free speech. And so when you're already
so like I talked about earlier, just like how, well, it's not about economics here. This is more like a sort of judicial, sort of procedural sort of thing. This is more about using culture war talking points, in this case free speech, in order to run cover for the real underlying fucking problems. Because he's actually okay with, like, you know... Well, in this case, it wouldn't be about economics. You know, using, like, free speech as a sort of cudgel. Also, like, free speech laws work differently in America. That's another thing I get irritated. And this is, like, a direct consequence of American cultural osmosis. A lot of fucking, like, European far-righters will often apply, like, America's First Amendment all the time to, when they are getting suppressed for their speech or whatever. When, like, dude, the free speech laws in your fucking country work completely differently to how laissez-faire, like, the First Amendment is in comparison. The First Amendment is quite fucking unique in terms of its, like, you know, your freedom and ability to be able to express particular ideas, right? Like, very, very laissez-faire, which, you know, you could argue is good and bad in particular ways, obviously, but what was I saying? Yeah, instead of, like, talking about culture war points, instead of to run cover for economic talking points, it's more so using a culture war talking point to essentially cover yourself, because they use culture war fucking shit all the fucking time in order to run coverage for their own fucking dog shit bad social ideas. Not just for only economics. They do it for, like, anything, basically, right? It can be any fucking issue.
Primed to be sort of libertarian, pro-free speech, and you're perceiving these attacks on free speech, you start to wonder, why are they attacking these people for their speech? And it unfortunately has this effect of making you think that the person is a truth teller and the government are trying to suppress them. And it reinforces your belief in what they're saying must have some truth to it if they want to hide it so bad. And these people...
Which is a logical fallacy, right? Oh, man. Why would the government go after this guy? He clearly didn't say anything wrong, even though they have, like, no idea what he's necessarily saying. Or what he's saying is, well, full of shit.
These, what I would now consider grifters, they know that. They know that that's the response and the feeling it's going to create in people. They want to be martyrs because then people will follow them even more ardently.
Exactly. Going back to the overall point, using the culture war points in order to sort of have self-monetization possibilities. So didn't, like, this guy have, like, a book tour and shit or something? Probably. Like, spoke to, like, a bunch of, like, people, probably. That's what happens all the time with these people. You know, he also had, like, probably a podcast, probably. Happens every time. Creates further, like, you have your ardent core base of support and fans, and, you know, helps create more monetization, potential for sponsorships. You can get paid by capital owners, generally speaking, in order to help spread more misinformation, to help them, you know, get fucking deregulation, to help benefit their fucking businesses by, you know, essentially distracting people with all your fucking culture war talking points. And you don't really care about, like, billionaires running out of the fucking back door with the money if you're the pundit in this case, like Tommy Robinson, because you're getting fucking paid by those exact same fucking billionaires to peddle all your fucking nonsense, right? Culture war talking points, or culture war sort of topics, being used to cover for, well, robbery of the treasury, right? Because these people, they never talk about economic issues. Or at least when they do, they try to, like, frame it in the most tamest way possible to make it sound as populist as possible, when in reality they're generally lying about it. They're full of shit. They don't know what they're talking about. Or they just operate directly off of talking points that are given to them by their oligarch benefactors.
Because they know it beats the people. Free Tommy Robinson and free him now.
Oh, hi, Geralt Wilders. Hey, I wonder how Netherlands is doing under your fucking rule, you fucking idiot. Oh, it's in the shitter. Oh. Fucking Geert Wilders. This fucking dude. This is one ugly ass looking dude. Look at this fucking man, bro. What is on your fucking head top, bro? Alright. But they look like they're not full of shit. That's the trick. Exactly. He looks like a Harry Potter villain. Bro looks like a fucking aged up Draco Malfoy. This is what happens when Draco Malfoy experiences twink death. Unironically. Twink death, Draco Malfoy.
So, yeah.
What's the likelihood all these people are like football hooligans? Like, what's like the likelihood that's the case? I'm saying like 90% for most of these dumbasses.
Go to like a rally, like a free speech rally when Tommy Robinson.
And man, that's a lot of white people there. Lots of whites looking around, pasty in that audience.
About to go to jail, and I come across Nico, and I see Nico, and I've seen him online, and I saw how he was trying to present everyone that went to a Tommy Robinson rally as a racist. And I knew from my perspective and knowing who I was, I knew I wasn't a racist. And so I got up to Nico and I tell the people around him that he's trolling you and he's trying to like make you look stupid online. And then Nico does misrepresent me in the video, and he says that I went up to the police and told them to get rid of Nico.
The police then came over and surprise, he started crying to them as well.
When in reality, I was actually saying to the police that Nico has his free speech. Because, you know, I'm fucking obsessed with free speech in this period of time. I don't know why. I think it's the single most important thing on earth. But either way...
Well, it's because you've been suckered into believing the culture war stuff instead of, like, you know, actual root... Like I said before, you're being, like, misdirected into believing, like, oh, man... this is such an important ideological sort of thing, when in reality, if you examine what conservatives believe, these people don't give a fuck about like free speech. It's like the same shit I talked about when I did the final part of my Gamergate arc. These people don't care. They don't care about the fucking things that they're talking about. It's supposed to serve an ulterior motive every single time. They don't give a shit, right? No one gives a fuck.
Like, as much as I disagree with myself for being at that rally and supporting Tommy Robinson in that time, I still stand by the fact that I don't think these people understood why people were presenting them as racist, right? And I just want to touch on that.
Tell me a Trump policy right now.
I support...
Fake, waffle. You're waffling, man. Yeah, answer the question.
I support his trade policy.
How dare you fake this? How dare you?
You know, now...
Obviously, yeah, that Nico dude he's like probably a troll, right? He's just like trolling or whatever. He's not doing a very good job, right? He can make that, like, yeah, he ran for London mayor. Yeah, he probably got owned. I would not want that guy as mayor, I'll be honest. But, yeah. It's like Joey Salads nowadays. He's like a stupid dipshit, like, conservative pundit or some shit. And he used to do, like, racist social experiments. I put this car in the middle of Harlem where all the black people live. Let's see, and it has, you know, it has Trump iconography all over it. Let's see what happens. And, like, a bunch of random black people with bats just come out of nowhere and start fucking beating the car. It's like, okay, dude. This is the most fucking easily psyoped shit on the fucking planet. You, like, I can detect the fucking glowing from space, dude. Get the fuck out of here, bro. Yeah, his channel is based off of being a troll. Yeah, you know, it's the same thing with like all these like stupid fucking prankster dumb fuck bullshit morons, right? Like same fucking shit, obviously.
Now, from the view I have now, I understand there are sort of two types of racism. There's like overt racism, which is like, I fucking hate migrants when you send them back, they're the worst. And then you have this kind of more like subconscious racism, or like in effect racism. And what I mean by that is like, I knew I wasn't racist because I grew up very multiculturally and I liked people of different races. I had lots of friendships with them and I got along with them very well. So I never in my heart felt anything bad towards people of different races. But what can happen from there is when you think you're like immune to racism, you sometimes are more susceptible to it in a way, but just a different type of racism. These grifters know they can't just say that, I don't know, black people are inferior genetically, although some of them have started doing that again. They've found sneakier ways of wrapping it, often by
1350, that's a prime fucking example right there, right? Oh man. Despite making up 13, although the fucking number changes all the time now, so they can't even get that fucking talking point straight nowadays. It's so stupid, right? Like, it's just like, oh man, fucking, it's now 40% of the pot. It's like 1340 now or some shit. It's like, why'd it go down? And you're still complaining about it. Okay, whatever. It's dumb, right? So this is like goes more into the sort of like sort of segregation versus like more systemic racism kind of dealio, right? Where like you're made to believe like things that seem reasonable, like, oh man, yeah, I don't know why, like, despite being like such a minority population, yeah, they do like a lot of crime for some reason. Why is that? And again, if you like look into any of the root causes for like 3 seconds, because conservatives never talk about the root causes, right? If they do, they make themselves look like fucking idiots. Every single fucking time. They make themselves look like morons, because if they do, it makes them look really racist and makes them look bad. And an average layman can obviously see that. But yes, interpersonal racism and systemic racism. Just like you said, Zane. That's what's being described here. Because, like, obviously, if you go up to a random person and you say, oh, I hate black people or whatever, obviously, that's, like, the interpersonal racism stuff. Like, you need to do some re-examining of priors, yada yada type shit. Like, why do you fucking believe that? I don't know, because of, like, stupid shit that I probably heard from online or whatever. And it's just like, well, that's just not true because of X, Y, and Z. And then obviously, yeah, the systemic stuff, whether it be like the redlining, segregation, slavery, blah, 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 blah. We all know the fucking, like, the whole meme. Again, like, you'll never see the sort of interpersonal stuff coming from right-wingers, although now it's coming back. Because again, it's too explicit, and like you're gonna have it's gonna like create inherent aversion into your audience. Because like a lot of are they genuinely fucking interpersonally racist? A bunch of them are, yeah. Not all of them, right? They'll be like, well, I have like Pablo as my neighbor, and I like him. He's pretty cool. Or it's like, I have fucking Tyrone as my neighbor. I like him. He's pretty cool. Or I have Pajit as my fucking goddamn neighbor. I like him. He's cool. Whatever. And generally people like will be like turn off if they're mentioned as like whatever particular ethnic slur or some shit. But you'll have these guys like defending all the systemic racist stuff, and it's just like, oh man, because it plays into the biases. Well, it's like, yeah, like all those other guys are bad. They're inherently bad. We need to be able to do something about them, right? Obviously not the ones that I know. They're fine or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, Boy Meets Me. I have white neighbors. I think they're pretty cool. Very good job on combating racism as always, Boy Meets Me. Critical racist theory, as always, stays winning. I've also seen the reverse, where people believe they can engage in interpersonal racism because they're being affected by systemic racism, and that's a lot of the sort of like black separatist hotep shit, right? All the fucking time, or like a bunch of other like fucking weirdos you'll find online as well, who engage in like all the like sort of separatist fucking bullshit. They can be racist. Like, well, I can be fucking racist because, well, fuck you. You're fucking the system is inherently racist to me, so fuck you. I'll be like it's generally speaking, like racism comes from essentialist reactionary thought and thinking, which is why it's generally bad to engage in that sort of like line of thought, right? Which is why generally speaking, like, because if you interact with like people, you're not going to be like interpersonally racist, but you'll support like the systemic stuff because like, well, I mean, these people aren't so bad, but there's probably a lot of other people that are bad, and that's generally how a lot of conservatives sort of operate, unless they're like gated off suburbanites. So I can't be racist because I don't hold the power to be racist. Exactly, yeah, shit like that. Which means I'm not right. I've never been bad, but it's like you support systems of power and you support a party that is racist and wants to uphold these particular systems. So therefore, yes, you may not be racist like personally, but you're supporting these systems of power that are racist. So yes, you are racist. But it's hard to make those like arguments to people who unfortunately don't generally like to engage in a lot of critical thinking, unfortunately. Especially nowadays.
Hiding behind culture. These pundits will lie and say stuff like 84% of grooming gangs are Asian Pakistani, which has been endlessly disproven. It is white people who make up the majority of grooming gangs. But all this misinformation...
Plot twist, everyone is supporting and is a victim of systemic racism. Unironically, yes. If you pay your fucking taxes, yeah, you support systemic racism. Sorry, sucks to fucking suck. I've made this fucking point constantly before. Like, and in particular ways, yeah, systemic racism affects everyone. Like, it even fucking affects white people. We're gonna do the libcuck sort of like third wave feminist, like intersectional analysis. Like, systemic racism even fucking affects the main beneficiaries of systemic racism, which is typically white people. Because what? You can become like culturally fucking stagnant. You're not gonna get like a lot of like fresh new experiences and shit like that. Generally speaking, like what? This is like military statistics. A lot of like mixed race squads and stuff like that, generally speaking, like perform better as squads overall. But yeah. Say this about Pakistanis, they can meme better than anyone. Yeah, pretty much. But again, this is what Jimmy is hitting on perfectly. And I guess this is the sort of overall, because it's not only about economics. I say, like, never economics. This can apply to pretty much anything. This is how the right wing uses the culture war and these talking points in order to do cover for their own fucking racism. It's not only racism. It's not only economics. It's not only, what was the other thing I fucking mentioned before with Jordan Peterson earlier? Racism, economics, broader social issues. Culture war, it's all a distraction. That is the purpose. Generally speaking, I've become afraid to speak due to systemic racism, so it's affected me too in a degree. Yeah, exactly. Because, like, I don't know, like, what particular state you live in there, Zane. Judging from that, it's probably red. It's probably shit. But yeah, like, people can go after you. Sometimes it happens, right? Like the more fucking like dipshit extremists, right? Like sometimes, like for example, there was like a story that happened. What with is it Zoe Baker? Aaron the Morning's wife. I don't remember her name. I forget her name. You're from Baltimore and now live in Florida. Zoe Zephyr. Why did I say Zoe Baker? I'm thinking of... I don't know. What the fuck am I thinking, honestly? In both instances, I could not speak. Yeah, exactly. Like, certain dangerous systemic races, blah, 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 blah. We all know the meme. Right, the fucking anarchist YouTuber. Right, that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, Zoe Zephyr. I believe she got kicked out of the Wisconsin State Senate because she was a state senator, I think, or some state representative, some form of state representative. She got kicked out because she was trans. Oh, Montana. Oh, right, Montana. And literally, like, this is a story said by Aaron Reed, right? She was said, like, yeah, literally, like, some random, like, Republican dudes, so, like, a bunch of fucking white people in their pickup truck came up to us, talked to Zoe Zephyr, and was just like, hey, like we don't agree with, like, what happened to you. And these guys are, like, clearly conservative Republican coded. Like, very obvious. You can clock that in, like, an instant. They were just like, yeah, like, I mean, we may not agree with, like, whatever you say about everything, but yeah, like, dude, you got kicked out for fucking bullshit reasons. That's kind of fucked up. Yeah, it's insane. Which is why I often say, like, if a lot of, like, the bullshit that Republicans want to try to implement, they want to try to put in, a lot of people in their coalition are probably not going to agree with it and be like, what the fuck is this? Right? It gives me, like, some form of, like, hope. You know, whatever delusional degree that could be. That, like, you know, if, like, all of the stuff that is necessary, the hardship that is needed in order to implement the, I don't know, fascist shithole that the fucking Republicans want to help orchestrate, does happen, people are going to, like, probably rise up and be like, what the fuck is this? I was promised this, and we're getting fucked over. Like, I mean, you see it with all the, like, MAGA regret type people or whatever. To whatever degree that's, like, effective. But yeah, like, it's just like it's something that's never gonna fucking materialize because it's so ridiculously fucking bad and disagreeable. Which is why it's when politicians and pundits often talk about these, they can't be explicit about it. They have to kowtow it in, like, culture war narratives and talking points because, again, the right wing, they're really upset that they can never win the culture back from liberals or progressives or whatever because they just make shit culture, and fucking left-leaning people are just better creatively because the right is just morally and, like, well, not just morally bankrupt, but just culturally bankrupt. There's, like, nothing going on there.
Can lead you to believe that their culture is inferior to ours and therefore we can't mix. And with the Tommy Robinson thing, it's kind of the same when it comes to Islam, right? You didn't hate people for being, like, having brown skin. You were simply critiquing their ideology, their beliefs.
You wouldn't do that with the Bible. Show some respect.
Show some respect.
Show some respect.
Have you read this book?
For people.
Have you read this book?
Yeah, I don't know, like, why Tommy Robinson's... You can make a lot of analogous, like, sort of, like, allusions to stories in the Bible to the fucking Quran, to be honest. They both... Muslims and Christians both worship the same God, technically speaking, so... Same with Jews. It's all the same fucking God. So, like, a lot of the stuff that's in there, you're just upset, like, because the thorough line here is just that Tommy Robbins is just upset that it's brown people doing it. That's about it. Because he's a racist. Of first order. First principle, he's a racist.
There's 100 people. So, you know, I'm listening to the greatest hits, right? I'm listening to Ben Shapiro debate some 12-year-old feminist. I'm listening to Jordan Peterson, Matt Walsh, I'm Joe Rogan till I fucking die. And I find myself accepting that I must be right-wing now. And, you know, little hipster Jimmy, that's cool because now I'm different to everyone. I'm the contrarian, right? I have all the different opinions. Oh.
Yeah, contrarian being different, even though, yeah, it's the most status quo of status quo ideologies. On the fucking planet. So yeah, you know, nice meme.
Oh no, the sky isn't blue, right. Actually, no, it's a shade of maroon. And, like, when you're listening to all this stuff, you get this sort of impression of the left, like what you're perceiving the left to be like, basically the worst of the left.
You know you're a millennial when you question whether or not it's ethical to bring children into this world. Because of climate change. We don't really know whether or not...
Hi, libs of TikTok. Hey, it's libs of TikTok. She's not technically, like, this girl right here is not technically positing an incorrect argument, right? Like, yeah, this is, like, something that can be engaged with. But conservatives are gonna fucking fearmonger about this and turn it into a culture war because, again, they don't want people to engage with the main point. The main problem being climate change. Because, again, they're okay with climate change because they're a fucking death cult. They want their rapture, and they see climate change as a avenue for the fucking rapture, when in reality, that's not the case, so.
The world's going to be habitable in 30 years.
And so you just get pushed further and further right from more of a reactionary position rather than some actual ideological and maybe academic understanding of economies and politics. It just sort of is a feeling. And it's so funny, like when Ben Shapiro and these sort of people get famous off of facts don't care about your feelings. But to be honest, like conservatives these days, it just seems to be mainly emotion. It's how they feel about topics. They hate when you bring up academic papers and actual facts, and they don't trust any of that.
In spring...
Yep. I mean, Jimmy's pretty much hitting it on the nail on the head. And the overall point that I've been talking about, it's all a fucking distraction. All just buzzing and noise so they can push the real agenda. It's literally the same shit Steve Bannon literally admitted on that one, was it like a fucking CBS interview or something, where he calls it flooding the zones, doing like so much fucking cringe, throwing out so much shit at the wall such that it's covering up what the real objectives are, and that's like the destruction of the administrative state in order to make it more difficult for it to regulate capitalists so then they can make more fucking money. That's the goal. Academic, what are you, cringe? Real.
Field, they're eating the dogs, the people that came
the classic.
in. They're eating the cats. They're eating
Good debate moment,
the
though.
pets of the people that live there.
And ABC News did reach out to the city.
I mean, yeah, it was a, good debate moment there by Kamala Harris. She did really well in that particular instance when he unironically did the fucking meme.
The manager there, he told us.
And Trump got fucking triggered about this, by the way. He got like so fucking emotional. God, his response to this was just so fucking funny, dude. Like literal like boomer grandpa fucking tear shit. Like holy shit. It's like, all right, grandpa, go back to fucking bed, bro.
There have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just.
I'm either way.
I've seen people on television. It's so fucking funny, bro. That's what the people on TV are saying. I'm just little old me. That's what the TV people are saying. That means it has to be true. Literally, my fucking grandma says that shit all the time. And I'm just like, no, don't fucking think like that. That is bad, explicitly. Because my grandma does the exact same shit. It's like, oh, well, this thing has to be true because they said it on television. I'm like, Grandma, no, never think like that. That is bad. You should do further research, look into academic papers. If they say that, then probably, yeah. Yeah, POV, you still watch TV. It's why, I talk about hatred of old people. It's just like, God, I fucking hate these elderly people. They just can't look things up. Are fundamentally incurious.
I find myself
I
as
can't
a right
take
winger.
it.
I have not descended into overtly racist beliefs or overtly transphobic beliefs, misogynistic beliefs. I haven't gone that far, but I probably do house some sort of unconscious discriminatory beliefs in maybe trans people, perhaps even
theory.
women to a degree.
Exactly.
Again, often wrapping their push for equality and better rights as some kind of Marxist revolution. But I believe in the typical sort of right-wing viewpoint that the state should be smaller, that people are responsible for themselves, and probably that like poor people are just lazy and they need to fix their own shit, and that billionaires and corporations are really good and like, sort of, unless they're the ones that, I don't know, Russell Brand says is bad, and then all of a sudden they're bad because they're tied to, I don't know, George Soros. George Soros business, bad. Bill Gates business, bad. But Elon Musk buying Twitter, good. Very good. Anyway, I'm deep in the pipeline, right? I'm deep. COVID happens. Obviously, I don't get vaxxed. I don't wear the mask. I'm sorry if I killed anyone. And, you know, again...
No, he killed people, baby. But yeah, this is how you catch the fuck, like I talked about before. Same shit fucking happened with Gamergate, right? You know, like I said when I was talking, like fucking potentially promoing this shit. It's like, yeah, some allusions to Gamergate might be said here. The same fucking like culture war used to help further feedback loops and get people into the fucking pipeline. Yada yada yada. You know, with like all the conspiratorial shit. Playing off of like contrarianism as well, because a lot of like Reddit atheists saw themselves as like going against the culture and the establishment by being wicked cool atheist gamers, because you're only a loser if you play video games and are like not religious or whatever, right? Same shit happened here, like playing into the sort of contrarian ideas. Oh man, we're against the culture because everyone's telling you to get vaxxed. Well, we're not vaxxed because we're cool and epic, and this is just a flu or whatever. Or oh man, we like our particular billionaires are because you know they're cool and heckin' epic. Look at this like cool spaceship Elon Musk sent into space or whatever. Yeah, all the like culture that they're trying to build, but it's just like, dude, man, this sucks. Meanwhile, yeah, the billionaires get to rake the benefits from this, obviously, because again, what is this all about? It's all fucking distractions in order for the billionaires to push deregulatory policy on the administrative state so they can run out the back with the money. That's it.
I regret that position now. I literally didn't want to get vaxxed, not because I thought it had 5G in it or something, but just because I was so sort of libertarian right wing that I didn't like the fact the government were telling me to do it. And like, I don't know, I'm here today, I'm vaccinated, and the woke police haven't come to my door yet, so probably I was overreacting.
Vaccine passports. While we've been looking in other directions, they are being slowly yet deliberately introduced. Are they the linchpin in a global surveillance network?
So you might be wondering, like, what was the moment? Like, when did it all change? When did the dam break? And there was a moment, right? And I can kind of point to it specifically. And it was through making my videos. Now, as you know, you guys are watching, you're probably really into all the social political stuff I do. But originally, I was a park.
I need to do a Christian react to Russell Brand. He's like Russell, he's like so fucking full of shit, dude. Like, he's just complete fucking full of it, dude. Russell, he's trying to like make his like cult, basically. That's like the point, right?
Cool YouTuber, and then I become like an extreme sports YouTuber, and when I got to the end of this period in 2022, I wanted to diversify my content, right? And I remember genuinely, I thought I was probably even gonna
oh yeah, and also another reason why I didn't necessarily want to include this video here in my sort of attack on Gamergate arc, the time frame that this guy operates off of, not really within the time frame of Gamergate itself. There's allusions you can make, certainly, like the sort of general anti-woke, anti-SJW stuff. But Gamergate was not the main thing that got Jimmy here into the alt-right pipeline. At the point that he got in, which was about, like, what, 2019-ish, 2020, Gamergate's pretty much, like, in the dustbin at this point. Or, like, not really relevant so much anymore. Not really at all. It's more like the general sort of anti-woke, like playing off of like feelings of contrarians, feeding into like conspiratorial logic to get people suckered into the pipeline, right? Christian aunties in India shares vids these days. Oh, Russell Brand videos. Yeah.
Make like those sort of right-wing documentary series, like things like Jen or like some of Moon's stuff, you know, that kind of thing. I thought I'd end up in that.
Yeah, the right-wing documentary stuff as well.
And I could read the room. I knew that I couldn't make a video why Jordan Peterson's the best man alive. I knew I had to take my time to kind of meander. So I made a video on a very specific topic about chavs.
Clothing brands that you didn't like were called chavs. Rough neighborhoods were considered chav infested. But what exactly is a chav? And most importantly, where did they all go?
And so I made this video. It's really interesting if you rewatch it, because my biases and all of my thinking going into this video is that chavs are bad because they were dickheads and they chose to be bad. But whilst making the video and wanting to address the question, like, where did chavs go? Why did they disappear? I stumbled across a geezer called Owen Jones.
Owen Jones. I believe left-leaning British guy or something, I think. The name is familiar to me, but I'm not 100% like on the sort of... I don't fucking know. My brain is poisoned, but it's not that brain poisoned. But again, this is the sort of turning point from what I've seen. And why right-wingers have to do so much distracting, right? Because if you don't do enough distractions, people who still have some form of critical thinking skills and some grounding in reality, like Jimmy here clearly has, broadly understand, like, if they're engaging with a particular topic, they have to, like, research, look into it or something, unless, like, you're a pundit, and you know if you do that, it would make you look bad, but, you know. Yeah, Gopnik culture in Eastern Europe. That's what I also figured as well. That's, like, the vibe that I got with, like, the full fucking tracksuit and everything. Yeah, it's fucking Gopnik shit. I'll mostly talk about Owen Jones. I don't remember as much about, like, Owen Jones, but yeah, you know. Listen, the Brits have to also somehow crimp on our fucking, one of our styles, you know. Although, like, Gopnik shit's not as big of a thing in Romania. Not as much. In comparison to, like, say, the Yugoslavian states and further out east. That's where it's more prominent. If you, like, do looking into a particular topic, and you, I guess in the case of, like, Jimmy here, he kind of, like, stumbles into someone who talks about, like, the sort of culture and ideas of the working class, right? A lot of your preconceived notions can get fucking challenged directly if you engage with, like, whatever medium about it. Like, in this case, like, Owen Jones more than likely talking about how chavs are sort of used as a culture war talking point to cement these ideas so you don't fucking challenge your own fucking thinking. Because if you look into them, you get, like, the truth, and you look into the statistics of stuff, and you engage in a tiny bit of critical thinking, you can immediately understand. It's similar to what dark matter did. You can immediately look into particular things, and you're just like, oh wow, holy shit! Well, I heard these, like, things about them, and this is, like, direct contradiction of it, and I'm being, like, shown, like, facts and statistics about it. And I'm like, whoa, I'm being directly challenged on a thought that I used to have. Like, maybe I was wrong the whole time. And then you engage in a bit of, like, reflection. You end up questioning yourself and thinking about, like, wait, hold on. Was, like, this thing that I used to believe in, like, just complete bullshit? Like, nonsense? Like, wait a minute. Hold on. And then those talking points get broken. They completely fall in on themselves, and it's just like, wow, this was just all complete nonsense to begin with. And you start to look into other things, like economic issues, like, okay, well, I had these, like, priors about this stuff, well, hold on, well, I used to think this, like, about you know, this particular show, what's going on here? And then you look into it, you're like, oh fuck, man. Oh man, I used to think this about this like, healthcare issue. It's complete nonsense. Like, they're trying to privatize the healthcare system. One of the best things that Britain has, the NHS. They're trying to privatize it. Oh, it's kind of fucked up. Like, what the hell is going on here? It's like, oh, the wait times are actually because of lack of funding, not because of I don't know, people wanting to go to the fucking private sector. So because they're trying to privatize it, it's actually fucking getting worse. Oh, that's weird. And that's how the snowball in the other sort of direction happens. You get your narratives challenged, which is why, again, right-wingers have to throw so much culture war shit at the fucking wall constantly, in order to distract people at all fucking times. And this is why, generally speaking, like, right-wingers just don't believe in reality, because, like, culture war shit's just, like, based off of, like, non-reality, even though it's, like, loosely kind of based on something, because they kind of have to present the argument. But you look further into it, it's like, oh, it's complete fucking nonsense. They have to throw so much of it at the wall that it creates, like, this feedback loop in people's brains, saying, like, well, I have to, like, believe in this thing, because obviously, like, I haven't seen anything otherwise that challenges these priors, so I can't, like, oh man, I have to, like, believe that this has to be the case, because I'm not being told anything else by the other side. And the problem is with engaging with stuff like this is, like, you have to spend a lot of time debunking all the bullshit, and it's so easy to make so much bullshit that eventually it becomes like a death spiral, and you can't reach that person unless it's like a very specific instance where a very specific people get to it or whatever. Get to them, sit them down, be like aunt whoever, uncle whatever, my buddy whatever the fuck. What you're believing in is complete bullshit. Like, it's just nonsense. And it has to be, like, at some point, like, it has to be like a huge intervention. It's just, and it's difficult because they also have to be, like, really rhetorically prepared to be able to counter any, like, of the bullshit sort of talking points that have been memorized and drilled into their brains that they're going to use to try to counter what you're saying. It's like, no, like, that is bullshit because of X, Y, and Z. And it's really difficult because it takes a lot of time to learn all this stuff. You have to look into a lot of different studies, and people don't fucking have time for that shit, right? Like, and that's what makes it really fucking effective. Why anti-intellectualism, generally speaking, the culture war is very, very effective at distracting people from the actual root ideological problems that the conservatives believe in. Whether it be about economics, whether it be about social issues, whether it be about whatever cultural stuff that they actually believe in. There's a lot of shit you have to fucking sift through. Right-wingers are never going to say what they actually believe in, because if they do, it makes them look really bad, and it's not palatable to people. And they know that. Because again, right-wingers only care about one thing and one thing only. Gaining power and putting their fucking dog shit backwards ideas on other people. That's all that they care about, fundamentally speaking. It's all about just gaining power in order to maintain the hierarchy of control. Going back to that central thesis every single time. Using power to maintain the hierarchy. That's it.
I see Owen Jones and all of but you see it in the video. I'm like, look, guys, I'm about to quote Owen Jones. I don't agree with him, but what he says about Chavs is really interesting. You should probably listen to it.
Truly a war in the public sphere. The author and journalist Owen Jones, who I have to admit I don't really agree with him on a lot, he wrote an entire book called Chavs.
So I read it and I'm like, fuck, maybe Chavs were like a product of their environment and their economic status. Bear in mind, this is the opposite.
We're getting fucking woke with the analysis. We're becoming a fucking wokey boy. We may be engaging with some fucking class analysis, some material analysis. Wee woo, wee woo, wee woo. We're engaging in materialism. That's some Marx cuckoldry, communist shit that you're doing, Jimmy. Shaking my fucking head, bro.
It's the antithesis of my view is that I would have believed as a right-winger that cultures are just like people who make decisions to behave in the way they want to. So these are bad people who are choosing to be bad. So after this video, I go down different rabbit holes. I'm making different subcultures. I do skinheads and I do football hooligans, which are both in a very interesting period of time, which is the Thatcher era. And the more I research into Thatcher and see how she completely flipped this country on its head, she completely radicalized Britain into being extreme neoliberal capitalists. And it's kind of become just assumed that's how the world has always worked. That's how we are. But then I discovered that at some point in society, we weren't fucking insane capitalists that we are right now. I've discovered this because there was a period of time called the post-war consensus, which I talk about fucking endlessly on this channel. But in that period of time, we followed a style of economics that was called Keynesianism, which meant that the government's job was to make sure everyone was employed and to tax the wealthy at higher rates, use that money to build infrastructure.
Yes, Keynesianism, which, you know, came out of the New Deal, and as a result was essentially what saved capitalism. Because if the New Deal wasn't done, shit would have collapsed in the 30s. Guaranteed, and World War II would have gone like 10 times fucking worse. Absolutely. If it weren't for the fucking New Deal, this thing that saved capitalism. Of course, it wasn't exactly perfect, obviously. Thank you, Southern Democrats, but you know.
That benefited the people. And then bear in mind, you know, I'm listening to Donald Trump saying, make America great again, and everyone's harping on about how the world was better back in like the 60s and 50s. And then I find out the reason why it was better.
Yeah, I wonder why. Yeah, save capitalism to keep the fascists out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why was it? Yeah, exactly. Now you can see here. This is the sort of... We have the thesis. The antithesis is now coming. We're about to get the synthesis. We do a little bit of Hegelian dialectics here. Just a little bit. Just a little bit of Hegelianism, okay? And you're starting to... Jimmy here is about to get the sort of, like, smack in the face, like, oh, fuck. Oh, wait, I now understand that it's all been taken for a ride. He's about to understand what conservatives fight for at the root. Guaranteed.
Was because we had mass public investment. This investment led to the greatest economic boom in history, raised many of the working class into the middle class, which created a whole host of new industries, new products, basically, it was good shit. What we did then was good. And you know, you got to bear in mind that I am being told the only answer to life's problems is dog eat dog, free market capitalism. Get the government out of everything. The government can do nothing right. Only the geniuses of commerce can do anything. Like our water supply that has no piss and poo in it. Or like our really quick and definitely on time and affordable train system. Or like our really affordable housing that people definitely aren't speculating on.
Man, the capitalists are doing a great job. And here is the main crux that I sort of wanted to make this about. It's all about doing cover for capitalists for them to run out the fucking door. And more or less, that's pretty much done. So much shit's been thrown at the fucking wall. And now the capitalists can reap the benefits of the crop that they have sowed. And that is a complete opening up of the fucking federal treasury in order to get anything that they fucking want. Because of all of the chaos within the regulatory and administrative state. That is the playbook. Always has been, always will be. Like, well, there's a lot of lefties out there who talk about like the New Deal is more or less undone. And, you know, I basically like agree with that, to be honest. Like, mobility of wealth is just non-existent, broadly speaking, within the West. Like generational sort of like if you don't live with your fucking parents as like a millennial, like you're cooked. You can't afford a fucking house. Wages have just completely fucking stagnated. Then you complain for that. Fucking Thatcher and Reagan, those two stupid fucking pieces of shit. We're still feeling the effects of fucking shit from 40 years ago. Still to this fucking day. Crazy. The same shit India's billionaires have been doing with Modi's admin for the past decade. Exactly. And what has happened in India? Wow, material conditions have gotten generally worse in India. Whoa. What a surprise.
And shrinking the middle class.
Private water companies are dumping huge amounts of raw sewage in Britain's rivers and off its coastlines. They're doing so to save money, to ensure returns for shareholders, and by extension, to guarantee massive salaries for bosses at the top.
And so yeah, time's going past, man.
Crazy.
I'm learning this shit, and I'm like, fuck, and I'm starting to realize, like, I don't know if I believe all the things that I believe. about right-wing politics. But I hadn't accepted it, right? I was becoming more and more distrustful. Things like this, right? 1 month, I went on holiday to Thailand. I walk in...
Yeah, by the way, that's literally like the worst nightmare for fucking right-wingers. When people become distrustful and they get out of the sort of cycle and snowball of fucking dipshit propaganda that they spew, right? This is like the worst fucking possible scenario. For them, of course.
In a coffee shop, and I see the most beautiful woman on earth, who is now my wife, and she is Ukrainian. I go to Ukraine.
My
During the
wife.
war, I've been to Ukraine many times, and I've experienced air raids. I've heard bombs go off.
There we go.
Ukraine, Pepe.
Peter must be having a slow day.
All the while, I look on my phone at all the right-wingers talking.
I wonder what he thinks of the current peace deals that are going on, quote unquote.
Talking about Ukraine, and they believe that Zelensky is like, I don't know, a blue-haired feminist or something.
I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies
Lauren Chen said $500.
And they're trying to
That's
say
funny.
that it's actually NATO, and NATO are the bad guys, and America's bad, even though we're pro-America, America is bad. And, you know, I'm learning more about the Ukrainian conflict and all the history of how it came to be and why we defend them and why we can't allow Russia to just go and take over sovereign nations. And so you learn more and more about this. But then there was two people I come across that...
Hey, Marxist-Leninists. You agree with all the far-righters on this one, buddies. You guys are fucking dipshit conservatives yourselves. Whoopsie!
Really, like, cemented the change, right? So I'm becoming distrustful of the right. I'm starting to see, like, you know, their takes on
damn
Ukraine
crane
as being
tards
ridiculous.
converted
And then
him.
I come across
MAGA, that's right. Oh, hi, Andrew Tate.
So right now we're deep in the sort of Andrew Tate era. Andrew Tate has blown up, and at first it was kind of, you know, it was kind of fun. It was like,
God, he's so fucking gay, dude. Like, God. Like, Jesus Christ, Andrew Tate, bro. I can't with this fucking dude.
especially if you're sort of a young right-wing libertarian type, you need to get strong to look after yourself, look after women, looking after the people you love.
Yeah, again, like I said before, maintenance of hierarchy, cementing the idea that it is all about the hierarchy which must be maintained. And yeah, this is a train of logic which can be applied to relationships with women, a lot of cultural, social issues, economics. The capitalist, the boss always has to be on top in comparison to the workers, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And you use culture war shit in order to fucking distract from you eventually recognizing that that is what the maintenance is, like, what right-wingers are spewing all this shit for.
Like, that sort of stuff was kind of nice. I started going to the gym, I started doing all that stuff. I was always sort of into the self-help stuff, so all that shit sounded good. And then he started to talk about women.
To some degree, as a man, you have to instill drama in the relationship, because if you don't...
Yeah, so this is where Andrew Tate specifically fucked up, right? He got too explicit with it. Like, there's a reason why, like, a lot of these sort of mainstream punditry on the right did not like Andrew Tate. He was too explicit with the propaganda. And that can create aversion. Now, the reason why, like, Tate's explicit with it is because he wanted to sort of, like, because he was in this purely for himself, obviously. And he wanted to distinguish himself from, like, the more milquetoast paid by the billionaire fucking pundits, right? He knew it would cut through the noise. Exactly. So that's why it makes it rather fucking difficult, obviously. Because, like, it can cut into the sort of, like, more sort of, like, I don't know how to say this exactly, like, moderate punditry. I say in air quotations. And can, like, eat into their audience, right? Because they're, like, well, there's going to be extremists within those audience who are going to be more likely, who are further down the rabbit hole and just believe in shit like this. In order to, like, you know, to basically scam them from their money. That's Andrew Tate in a nutshell, scamming people. You know, it can help cause aversion in those that are more distrustful because of how explicit he is with it. because they see, like, it could be like a more moderate right-winger. You know, they mostly agree with, like, the pundits, but, like, they're kind of like, I don't know, I'm not 100% certain. I've seen this, like, video, like, kind of directly contradicting. I'm getting thoughts. And they see shit like this, and they're like, oh, fuck. Wait, hold on. This is actually, like, kind of bad. I really don't agree with this. And then they leave the more sort of moderate punditry, right? Big reason why a lot of these motherfuckers do not like Andrew Tate.
She's going to get bored.
No, that's very true, man.
And she's either going to leave.
Oh, yeah, the fucking Nelk boys. These, like, 3 IQ dipshits. Full send, bro. Full send. We're like, oh, fucking low IQ dipshits.
Or she will instill the drama, which gives her control.
Then you're seeing all these Fresh and Fit podcasts and Sneeko and all this crazy shit. And you're seeing, like, people...
Yeah, like, they're fucking troglodytes. Like, all these, like, again, Fresh and Fit, like, manosphere type dipshits. The reason why a lot of the, like, established political right-wing pundits did not like any of these fucking guys is like what I said before. Those that are distrustful, they can't get to the distrustful ones to try to reel them back in with the more sort of moderate fucking points. Because, again, they'll be instantly repulsed and then they're out of the fucking loop cycle. And it's also going to cut into the more extremists that they have in their audience, who've gone further down the fucking pipeline, and they're going to grab them. Right? Because again, root fucking cause of all of this, all about capital. It's all about the fucking money. Right? That's all these people fucking care about. It's making a fucking profit in the end. So they'll just say whatever and do whatever in order to fucking make sure that they're getting the fucking money. Because if their fucking oligarch benefactors see that they're not really retaining as big of a fucking audience, they can pull funding very, very easily. The right-wingers are going to be like, oh, fuck. Well, this isn't good. Shit. So either they have to adapt and go further down the sort of pipeline themselves, or they have to try to find, like, either new revenue streams or new audiences they can try to grift towards. But again, the one fundamental truth is always, it's all about the fucking money, baby.
Making their entire livings complaining about women. And you're like, what the fuck is this? And there was one bruh who would go on these shows, and his name was Destiny.
Women fare a lot better post-divorce
than men do,
bro. And the
Sex
reason why is
Pestiny?
because they get the resource, they get the money, they get the children, they get put in a better situation financially.
I do have to say that this is very smart of Destiny to do this, because he does do a good job. Oh, look at me. Oh, I must be a DGG simp. Nah. He does a very good job at, like, making all the manosphere types look like complete fucking morons. Back, like, you know, we all remember fucking Arkansas Steve, okay? Like, when he was doing, like, all the 1v4 Nazi debates, making them look like complete troglodytes. And obviously, they all stopped debating him. Because, again, this type of motherfucker right here, Soistony over here, recognize that, like, I can easily cut into these people's audience. Because, again, for him, he doesn't really have any ideological predilection to this. Destiny's, like, a very unique sort of X factor in all of this. Where all he cares about is, well, money, business, monetization for himself. So he knows he can easily shave off these audiences and get people to start subscribing to him, giving him donations, buying merch, whatever, in order to get money to begin with. Or at least for himself, rich to begin with. Not hard to make these them look like idiots. They do it themselves. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if you're propagandized and you're in the fucking spin cycle, you don't think like that, obviously, because you think that these guys are smart because you haven't been really exposed to any fucking ideas if you're like a young man. Because here's my own misandry coming here. Men are fucking morons. They are very stupid. I can't believe I'm misandrous Daho being a misandrist. Shaking my head.
Actually,
no, they don't.
Yeah,
dude, they get the house. Moms don't live good on child support. That's not true. Have you ever seen a bitch?
Oh yeah, like Myron was like trying to argue that like single moms live well off of child support, And they do really, he's like trying to do welfare queen fucking shit with like single moms living on child support. It's like, no, they really don't, dude. Like, what are you talking about?
For child support, she's not living the greatest fucking life. Women fare worse than men in almost every degree after divorces. So the idea of pretending...
What are you talking about?
They make more money. They have better dating strategies afterwards. Men just do better than women in almost every single metric post-divorce.
Destiny is correct here, by the way. Yeah. You can look up the fucking statistics. Obviously, these two retards, fucking Myron and the other one. I don't remember the name of the other one. Can't fucking really engage with that whatsoever because, again, they're like, oh, fuck, we're being directly, like, challenged straight to our fucking faces. This is pretty bad. And they can't engage with it because if they do, like, they're going to make themselves look like idiots. And for conservatives about enforcing the hierarchy, they have to look macho tough to, like, the lip cuck. But it's just like, oh, fuck, I can't, like, present a point that makes me look good to the fucking lip cuck to my audience, so I end up looking really bad and weak, but it's like, okay. They think because rich celeb divorced women are doing fine, all divorced women must be. Yeah, that's the line of logic, obviously. When, guys, not all divorced women are celebrities. Yeah, sorry to say, I don't know.
Destiny was really interesting because he was a lefty and he was proud to be a lefty. He didn't try and hide. He didn't say it was like a
Hold on, when was this video made? 3 months ago. Well, this is before all the sex pet stuff and obvious. Whatever. You know, nice meme. Obviously, I'd have a problem with saying that Destiny's a lefty. He presents himself that way. In reality, Destiny only cares about Destiny. He doesn't have any ideological predilections at all. Because I don't know if, like, Jimmy has seen any of, like, Destiny's debates against left-wingers. Destiny makes himself look really fucking stupid when he debates any fucking left-leaning person. He looks good debating right-wingers because, again, he's good at making people look like idiots, which is very easy to do with right-wingers because they're all idiots. But with left-leaning people who aren't idiots, generally speaking, unless you're talking about Marxist-Leninists, who are no different than right-wingers, it's much easier. Like, Destiny can much more easily go after people like that because they are idiots. But it's really easy to make conservatives look like idiots because they are idiots. Like, it's really, really easy to do that. I do that all the time. It's the easiest fucking shit on the planet. I'm pretty good at it, I'd like to think. You know, sucking my own dick a little bit here, but yeah, whatever.
He was like, no, I'm on the left. But he didn't play into, like, the left-wing, woke, crazy stereotype. He was just a normal dude who presented left-wing ideas but was really good at debating. Now, remember, debating the left up until this point was Ben Shapiro debating a 4-year-old. But now you're seeing someone who's actually quite well versed in the beliefs of the right wing, debating them and winning a lot. So I get into Destiny, right? And I even was going to make a video on Destiny. I might do it again one day. And I had a conversation with him on a stream, but I was so right-wing at the time, I didn't know how to make the video because I kind of had this mental block between really asking him sort of questions. But then the final nail in the coffin for me, at the point where I realized I was no longer right-wing, was when I came across Gary's economics.
You need to have structures in place in your economy that prevent the rich from taking all of the wealth. If you don't have that, history teaches us the rich get all of the wealth. And once the rich...
Yeah, Gilded Age. I mean, we can make the argument that we're living in a new fucking Gilded Age right now. Like, I think it's ridiculous to say that.
Have all of the wealth, ordinary people end up with very poor living conditions. You know, if you go to countries that are very unequal, India, South Africa, almost anywhere in Latin America, very unequal societies lead to very poor living standards.
Gary is like a working class geezer and he became super wealthy as a trader, and his whole thesis was that income inequality is gonna get worse, and he betted on that. He made money predicting that, and it came to fruition. Income inequality has got much worse. And what's interesting, right, is he talks about income inequality and why it was bad,
successful.
Bad for house prices and cost of living, etc. But the thing is, and I don't know if he doesn't really talk about this too much, but it unlocked this vault in the back of my brain. It was this old memory of a clip that Jordan Peterson had put out. And it was him talking about the correlation between income inequality and crime.
You know, you always hear this idea.
It says, see, this is Jordan Peterson making a mistake, because he's an obvious right-winger who believes in the sustaining of hierarchy. Yeah, this is an because, again, this is Jordan Peterson starting to talk about economic and class issues, which he's wholeheartedly incapable of doing as such. Anytime he tries, he makes himself look really fucking stupid. Like, really, really stupid. Because he believes fundamentally in the maintenance of hierarchies. Conservative to the core. So he obviously has to believe that, why are people in poverty? It's because they probably did something stupid. Or whatever. When in reality, that's generally not the case. This is what I fucking constantly argue with my parents all the time. Because again, they think that, I think like people who are homeless must have done something bad in their lives. It's just like, well, no, that's not always the case. Like, and I talk to them about like how bad wages are, how bad this job market is. I present to them statistics, and they're just like, because unfortunately they're like snooty like manager types. It never clicks with them because again, I've even told this to their faces. So I'm like, dude, like, I know why you're saying the things that you're saying. I'm not stupid. I know basic material analysis. You're fighting for your own class interests. You say the things that you say because you're managers. You're part of the petite bourgeoisie. You have a class interest in maintaining the hierarchy. Simply put, it's easy. But obviously, it's just like the mental block. You can't get through it. It's like impossible with them. But again, like since Jordan Peterson believes in the maintenance of hierarchies, it's all about, we have to have it such that, the person in poverty is experiencing some form of wealth inequality. But, obviously they had to do something wrong in order to fucking get in that position, right? They're not working enough. They're not pulling themselves up by their bootstraps. They did a crime or some shit. Whatever, anything. It could be anything. And that's why they're in poverty. When in reality, it's just like, no, that person's probably working like 2-3 jobs, right? They're working their fucking asses off. They're barely making rent and food. That's a little weird. Why is that? Couldn't be anything in particular that happened in the 80s, right? It couldn't be because of like the, significant crashing in the unionization rates, obviously all the busting of unions that happened, the deregulation of markets and of capital to make it such that these fucking stupid, snooty billionaires were able to get more and more fucking money, right? More and more concentration of wealth at the top. But that has to be good in the minds of a right-winger because, again, the hierarchy is being maintained there. The capitalists are on top. It has to be good. So whenever Jordan Peterson talks about anything in terms of economics, he can't fundamentally engage with any of it. It's impossible for him. Because, like, if you ask Jordan Peterson, like, well, why do you think, like, people are in poverty? He has to talk about, like, decisions that people make. It's like, well, I mean, like, generally speaking, like, people work, like, 2-3 jobs, and they're still not able to, like, make rent. Like, why is that? It's like, oh, well, they have to be doing something. It's like, yeah, but, like, what? Like, what could it be? And you try to, like, dig into that. It's like, do basic Socratic method, and eventually you have to, like, he's never going to admit to it, obviously, because he knows that would completely fundamentally shatter his worldview, and it'd be over for him. Or he's like too deluded to fucking admit it. One of the two. That's what makes like shit like this extremely fucking frustrating when debating with like fucking right wingers, because like you walk them down, and depending on how fucking deluded they are, they're never gonna fucking take like the final logical step. They just can't, obviously, because they just believe in that fundamental core tenet of hierarchy must be maintained at all fucking costs. And I will do anything possible. I will lie, I will cheat, I will steal in order to make sure that is fundamentally maintained. Because I'm on that fucking hierarchy. I'm way higher up on the hierarchy in comparison to these fucking lowly peasants. So fuck them. Which is why Jordan Peterson, he can never fundamentally engage with any of this, with any form of economic issue. He can't do it. He can't. minimum wage used to be able to support a family. Yeah, you can like frame it that way. It doesn't matter. There's like 17 different ways you can talk about these issues. But he's never going to admit to any of it. Oh, so what do you mean stop making excuses, Boy Meets Mini?
Yeah, that poverty causes crime. That's a classic left-wing idea, but it's wrong. What causes crime...
Oh yeah, and also because of his own like paranoid like schizophrenia about like left-wingers, obviously he has to also engage with it in that way because he's a fucking paranoid freak.
Crime, especially aggressive crime, is relative poverty. Poverty is when you don't have enough to eat. Relative poverty is when the guy next door has a much better car than you.
The right wing really loved...
Yeah, that's not how that fucking works, by the way. That's just stupid. That's really dumb. If you're living in a fucking poor neighborhood, some guy's not gonna have like a fucking convertible Mustang, like a fucking convertible. That's not how that works. If someone's living in like the fucking projects or some shit, they're gonna have the same fucking used beat up car like you fucking moron. They're not gonna be on their fucking food stamps or welfare checks or whatever the fuck and have a fucking like Beamer. That's not how that works. Stupid. I must be in relative poverty then because you know, despite making six figures because some billionaire in LA has a Bugatti. Real.
Argue about culture. They always say that like it's people's the problems in society comes from people's ideas and beliefs and their values, which is super convenient, right? Because when anything goes bad, you can just say that, oh well, it's because people are lazy or they're radical Marxist or this.
Fucking
all the while there's no solution to that, right? What can you do? You can't change people's minds, so it's just like, oh well, I guess we just have to accept the status quo. But when you...
Well, here's the thing with that, Jimmy. That's not actually true. The solutions are jailing them and sweeping the problem away under the rug. Now, this could be because like Jimmy has more or less sort of started on his like more left-leaning journey. But here, if he ever randomly sees this video, okay, of me talking about it, he makes it to this point of this very fucking long video. My fucking sort of like talking reaction yapping segments to videos typically tend to be very long. The right wing does have a solution to the problem. This is true. They do have a solution. The problem is that they can never be explicit about it. They have to kowtow it in particular cultural language. Remember what the central premise of the video here is: right-wingers can never be honest or truthful about anything. They always have to kowtow what they truly fucking believe in some form of cultural war, sort of talking point, because if they were honest with what they believed in, which is a security apparatus in order to make sure the poor stay in line, that's not very palatable to most of the sort of individualistic, free-minded Americans, or even like in the UK or whatever. Like, if I were to be explicit about it, I'm going to be explicit about it because this is what right-wingers believe. They believe, because they have to maintain the hierarchy of first principle. First principle for every right-winger is they have to maintain the fucking hierarchy at all fucking costs. Instead of addressing issues of poverty, what do we do instead? We have to fucking throw them all in jail. Because, again, if the poors are too educated and they know too much, it's like, well, fuck. They're going to start organizing and demanding more rights for themselves. That's the first thing that generally fucking happens, obviously. They're going to start organizing. There's a reason why systemic education was defunded under Nixon and Reagan, because Lee Atwater recognized that, if we continue to subsidize universities, we're going to have an educated proletariat who are going to rise up against us and challenge our system of control. Real direct quote. Real quote. I think that was when he was like an advisor to Reagan at that point. If people have a fundamental understanding of their sort of class disposition and consciousness, they're going to understand, like, oh, yeah, my boss doesn't give a fuck about me. He's taking me, for a ride. All these, like, people and pundits that I believed in that are saying these particular things, like, oh, they're just saying that to distract from an ulterior motive. Because in reality, in order to sort of help maintain this like rigid, violent hierarchy. Rigid, violent things must be done in maintenance of it, right? Then many people take that point the wrong way and think their boss is Marxist or some shit. Yeah, like, whatever. Some people's brains are cooked in particular ways, but you have to like keep educating. Obviously, that's what the education there is for. Because if you talk with like a right winger about like what they think the solution to that problem is, they say like, oh, you got to throw them all in jail, right? Like, they're rabble rousers. You can't have them out on the fucking street. You have to jail them. You have to get rid of them in some way. And just sweep the problem under the rug through the most violent methods possible, generally speaking, right? Like, but they have to kowtow their fucking language. They can't ever fucking admit this. Same like I highlighted with economics, same with social issues, same with even cultural issues. They can never be honest with what they truly fucking believe because they know, fundamentally speaking, it is unpalatable. It is impalatable. Like, people are not going to fucking like it. It's probably not popular. Most Republican policy, not most, all Republican policy is not popular. Very, very unpopular. Generally speaking. And what I mean by Republican policy here is like general sort of conservatism, like, making gay marriage illegal, or like, jailing people for believing in certain things or whatever. This is very broadly speaking unpopular, but conservatives very, very much so believe it. Well, it's popular on the campaign trail or not popular in practice. Well, the reason for that, Boy Meets Mini, is because like a lot of the people who support that shit on the campaign trail don't think it's actually going to happen. That's a little different. That's like a sort of like sleight of hand that's going on there. It's like, oh, a politician can't be lying to me because they're just saying stuff in order to get into office, but they're not actually going to do it, right? There's no way. That'd be crazy. And then they start trying to do it, and they're just like, oh, fuck. Oh, troll despair. Oh, fuck. They're actually trying to do it. But yeah, if they actually try to enact what they really believe in, and in this case, a carceral state, a security apparatus, in order to make sure that there can't be any dissent from whatever the dear leaders at the top of the fucking hierarchy believe in, we have to make sure to heavily crack down upon that through police, fucking secret police like Gestapo type people or whatever, state-funded shit. We have to crack down on that because, again, if these like ideas get out to the public, that's not going to get. They're going to recognize, and that's going to make us look really bad in terms of what we're trying to help maintain here. Core premise of the video always is the same here. I'll keep harping on it constantly, every single time, over and 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 over again. Conservatives care about maintenance of a hierarchy of control. That's it. Capitalists have to be on top because they're clearly just stronger and better and more superior. They have to be on top in order to exploit more and more people because they're the best at doing it, so they have to be on top, obviously. What do you mean? White people have to also be on top. They're clearly the better race. They're stronger. They're better because, they're the ones who have built the fundamental foundation of this country. They have to be fundamentally better. What has Africa built? It's just a fucking shithole or whatever justifications that they can use. Look at how poor it is, despite the fact that the reason why it is the way that it is because of, colonialism and shit like that. Blah, 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 blah. You might know of these fucking talking points. It's all about maintenance of that rigid hierarchical structure of first principle. First principle for every conservative.
Fundamentally challenge that view that sort of outcomes come from culture and people's individual decisions, and you start to realize that outcomes, like negative outcomes, crime, poverty, people having less families, having less kids, that
consequentialism, oh my god, the ethical system that I engage in, holy shit, crazy. We love consequentialism.
Maybe doesn't come from culture. Maybe the reason that men and women aren't having kids and getting married isn't because they're no longer Christian and they don't believe in families and the nuclear family. Maybe It's because no one can fucking afford to have families. Maybe.
And there it fucking is, boys. The true fucking synthesis. Let's fucking go, boys. I had so many chatters come in saying, why can't India get its shit together? And I'm like, America can't either. Yep. The true synthesis is now really here, obviously. Man, why can't people have babies? They're fucking expensive. Whoa. A Jane Austen style marriage market. What the fuck is... What's a Jane Austen style marriage market? What does that even mean? Like, I'm not... Like, I have a fucking pretty good safety net for myself. I haven't fucking gone out to fucking date. Well, mostly because I'm timid. I'm very timid. I will admit that. Look, I may seem very boisterous and confident online. Like, listen, when it comes to like social interaction with like, I can't fucking do it, dude. I become too fucking autistic. Okay, I get the fucking tism, and then it's over for me. Okay. I get the tism, and I probably start talking too much about Warhammer, and it's probably maybe on an aversion. Okay, if I was talking with like girls online about this, they'd be like, "Oh, whoa, tell me more about your autistic fixations." I'll be like, "Oh yeah, so this is like, well, right now it's like factorial for me. It's like, all right, so if you use like this little technique here, here's how you can like squeeze out like an additional like 10% like gear production. It's like, oh, it's really cool. I love that. It's like, oh, here's like this really cool setup that I like, well, sort of stole from the internet, but I've also like helped adapt like particular setups in order to like get really, really efficient production for your factory on this planet." And it's just like, oh wow, that's really cool and epic and shit like that, you know. Yeah, shit like that, you know. Have tried turning it on and off again. Real and true and based. Wait, are we talking about the Jane Austen style marriage? What? Who is? Okay, hold. I'm because now I'm curious. I want to look this up. Who's Jane Austen? Jane Austen, a novelist from the fucking 1700s. Oh, she's the one who wrote Pride and Prejudice. Oh, interesting. English novelist, known primarily for 6 novels, which implicitly interpret, critique, and comment on English landed gentry. She's a radical Marxist! What the hell, brother? Radical... these damn radical Marxists spreading their gay propaganda all over the place. What the hell, brother? Austen's plots often explored the dependence of women on marriage for the pursuit of favorable social standing and economic security. She's a fucking wokey. Woke. Jane Wokeston. Woke. So dumb. So basically, she was a feminist before it was cool to be feminists. Yeah.
Maybe it's because most people in their 20s still haven't moved out of their parents' house. Maybe it's because they don't make enough money between two people to afford to have a child. There's all these things that are happening, and you realize that probably the economic system is causing this. And it isn't just that the testosterone levels in men have dropped because, I don't know, they've fucking touched receipts or something. And so yeah, the sort of like the needle drop. Is that the expression? The pin drop? It all sort of made sense. I realized that I actually...
What the? Fantano? Melon? Wow, we getting melon pilled right now? Oh shit, bro. We're gonna start talking about how Kendrick Lamar is the Uber based and fucking gonna go with like the fucking Nietzschean meme here of like Kendrick's the Ubermensch of music while Kanye is the Intermensch. Jesus Christ. Stupid fucking meme.
I don't think everything is culture, and I think mainly things come from economics. I think most culture comes from economics. And like,
whoa, careful, we might be getting a little Marxist here. Yeah, a funny little bearded man named Karl Barks is the guy who said that, how all distinctions are all class distinctions. Why are all conflicts are based mostly out of class. A funny little guy named Marx is in a funny little pamphlet that he made called the Communist Manifesto. And that's what that guy says. Well, I clearly wouldn't believe in him at all. Oh, no, not at all. I haven't done any sort of like Marxist analysis or class-based analysis during this whole sort of react at all. No, not me. That's all that I do, actually. I do this shit all the time. I live it, I breathe it, I think of it all the time.
Yeah, of course, attitudes, values, beliefs, they also have an impact, but I think you cannot understate economics. And so from there, as I've had my fucking left-wing epiphany, my left-wiffany, I start to really realize, like, kind of...
This is sort of what this segment right here is what I wanted to make it really the main crux, right? Because this is the sort of main overall point that he's now gotten to, right? Yeah, right-wingers can never be honest about their economic platform because they're actually okay with all that stuff, right? They don't give a shit about young people having, families, being successful and stuff like that, because that cuts into the profits of capitalists, and that's not really acceptable to them, right? In the end, it all comes down to the profit motive, commodity production, and the main overall incentives that the bourgeoisie have. Oh, excuse me. I think I've been yapping too much. Voice is starting to die out a little bit. Oh, pardon me. Oh, God, I'm dying a little bit. Help. The main overall incentives of the bourgeoisie, what they really, really care about most of all, obviously, is they want to have as much control of the means of production as possible. And through that, how they do that is obviously through capital. The excess profit that is made from the workers that, they directly give to themselves because they're the ones who directly own the means of production. Obviously, Marx says that, like, well, this distinction's kind of bullshit because there's only a small set of people that benefit from this, and that's the wealthy bourgeoisie on the top. You're starting to see where, like, the analogy, the sort of, like, parallels come in with, like, why right-wingers defend capitalism as ardently as they do, because what do the right-wingers want to do, first and foremost? Main premise, as always, they defend hierarchy, first and foremost. Capitalists on top have to be fucking good, period. They're the ones who maintain the fucking social strata. They're the ones who maintain the hierarchy. That has to automatically be good as a first principle. Marx, of course, obviously challenges that, right? Yeah, richer equals schmorter. True. Even then, despite the fact that that's clearly not being displayed as the case at all, because we have troglodytes like fucking Elon Musk, richest man on the fucking planet, complete dunce. And this is probably the case for, like, a lot of other fucking rich people. All of them are fucking idiots. But I digress. What was I fucking saying? This is the main fucking crux. Funny little guy named Marx, the Santa beard and everything. Said, like, this is why it is important for the proletariat, the workers, they need to be the ones that control the means of production, because if that's not the case, well, there's direct consequences to it. More and more wealth is going to fucking concentrate, and it's going to eventually sort of, like, trigger, like, some form of class consciousness within them. They're going to recognize, and they're going to, like, revolt. This is, like, okay, not, like, necessarily the case of what he believed, of, like, a direct, accurate summary of, like, what he fucking believed in. But the reason why he believed in the, proletariat being the ones who should own the fucking means of production is because Marx generally understands, as an economist, that if you want, like, your economy to fucking grow, what capitalists want, if you don't have like money flowing throughout this fucking system, it's gonna fucking cause problems. So that's why Marx, he's the one who proposes, what if we just got rid of these social constructs that we've created altogether? You know, the idea of the state, the idea of money, the idea of class distinctions in general. Like, humans used to live without these before in, like, you know, proto-feudal societies and agrarian communities. These things didn't really exist, and, like, not in, like, the ways that they did before, in, like, the sort of communal livings that people used to have before, like, primitive accumulation happened. We can just do the same thing now. Like, we don't need these, like, rich parasites at the top owning more and more wealth than they know what to do with, causing consequences and, like, problems for the people at the bottom. They're the ones at the bottom. They're the ones who should be the main owners of the means of fucking production because, well, you know, they're the ones who fucking make the products. It's not the rich capitalists on the top. No, it's the little guy on the bottom. The only reason why you even exist is because of all these little guys. So they should be the ones who make the main decisions. Obviously. That makes sense. Or at least have some further representation. Of course, like, I'm sort of kowtowing the language here, you know, sort of like try to explain it, right? There are examples of like stuff like this already existing with like workplace democracy, but obviously like the main problem is this, there's still like the sort of private ownership of the means of production, right? Even though you can like vote on it, it's an improvement, obviously, but it's not like perfect. Even then, that's like a compromise. Like, you know, Mondragon Corporation and shit like that. The main fundamental problem that, of course, Marx looks at is the existence of money, the existence of the hierarchical state, the hierarchies of systems of control that are used to help maintain this, which is why Marx proposes we should do away with that. You know, roundabout way of sort of getting about it, but, you know, I meander about a lot. It is what it is. I've been on this video for way too fucking long.
The woke stuff, yeah, it's annoying. Do we need to argue about if there's an egg in a salad emoji? Is that really that important? And
okay, well, here's the thing with Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan doesn't believe in anything and will just say and do anything in order to make as much money as possible. Because he doesn't care about anything, to be honest. He'll have any kind of, like, stupid discussion and do, like, whatever the fuck he wants because he just wants to make money. That's it. That's Piers Morgan, but yeah.
You start seeing, like, I don't know, Matt Walsh, where he's done this whole documentary, What is a Woman? And he's the expert in this. Going on Joe Rogan, being asked how many kids are on puberty blockers because this is real fucking moral panic.
Yeah, that is a really good way to make... Matt Walsh really fucked up really badly on that one. Because, again, like I said before, this is going to get, like, the people who are mistrustful to just... That can be, like, the fucking switch. That can be, like, the switch that makes people more mistrustful, like, distrusting, and start to fall out of the sort of, like, propagandistic loop of lies and misinformation that they're stuck in. A mistake like that. And it can be instant. Yeah, like, Matt Walsh really fucked up pretty badly there.
How many people have had this done?
Depends on what. I don't think we have exact numbers, but if we're talking about the drugs, millions.
It's a very small number.
So true.
That's right.
It says over the last 5 years,
maybe a couple thousand.
4,780 adults.
Millions. That's a pretty big discrepancy there, Matt. Oops. Over the last 5 years, about 5,000. That's maybe like 900, not even 1,000 a month, a year. A year.
Adolescents who started puberty blockers and at a prior.
Oh, and this is like on puberty blockers, by the way. Yeah, few powers like by like 4 or 3 powers of 10 off there, buddy.
Gender dysphoria diagnosis.
If your politics spends more time talking about, I don't know, what toilet a transgendered person is going to piss in, or the woke brigade, if it spends more time on that than the cost of living, the housing crisis, rising inequality, things that, you know, are actually important and actually affect your lives.
But like I said before, they can't talk about that because they're okay with that, right? They're fine with that because that maintains the hierarchy. And that's what benefits them more than anything, right? So they have to talk about culture war issues. Yeah. Hello to the overall sort of thing that I wanted to focus on in particular.
If you're more focused on the former, then I hate to say it, but you've been bamboozled.
Google react to radical vegans screaming away by removing the egg from their salad emoji.
So what?
What about my rights as somebody who loves eggs to have the egg in the emoji?
Yeah, no one gives a fuck, Piers. Yeah, no one cares. Shut the fuck up.
Endless trope, these sort of moral panics, these clutching of pearls over social issues tend to seemingly always happen when there's economic problems. Like, I think it was in the 70s where they tried to ban Dungeons and Dragons, the board game.
High
Because it was
satanic
satanic
panic.
and demonic. It just so happened that the 70s was like a massive economic crisis. And so, yeah, the more...
And that's when all the unionization busting happened. And the heavy increase of unionization rates really fucking hit the toilet, broadly speaking, in the West. Uh-oh. Thanks, Nixon. Thanks, very cool. Very cool and epic, Nixon.
The more I made these videos, the more I started to see these patterns, right? These patterns between the 20s and the 30s, the rise of fascism in the West, and how that seemed to tie in with the Great Depression. And then you notice that in the 70s and the 80s, you see the rise of the National Front, the racists and all this sort of stuff. That just happened to be the same time as stagflation and the oil crisis. And then now, lo and behold, 2024,
same fucking
we're in
shit.
big economic problems.
History doesn't tend to repeat itself, but it likes to rhyme.
And it just so happens that the far right is on the rise and the Tommy Robinson Farage followers are now throwing bricks at mosques. It's a repeatable story, and like when I've made these videos, you start seeing these patterns and you start seeing how it plays out, and it always comes back to economics. And like, look, I have no hatred towards people who are on the right. I actually feel a lot of sympathy to most right-wingers because being where they were, I understand that they've kind of just been manipulated. Typically.
Well, I was never really where they were. I mean, you know, in reference, yeah, technically, you know, Jimmy here was where they were. I never really fell for it in particular. I mean, I've said my fucking story, obviously, but yeah, I never really like fell for it, but because you can just see the obvious fucking logic, and there's a reason why I never really go after like individual right wingers. I don't go like after like a random person who happens to be fucking right wing unless they say like something really stupid and I just want to make fun of it. Because like, for the most part, you know, like they've been propagandized. It's all bullshit. It's a lie for the express purpose of doing coverage for, well, capitalists. Simply put. Again, what's the quote? It's all about economics, stupid. Right? Like, it is what it is.
They've trusted people who present information that try and rile them up, that make a lot of money from doing so, and they distract them from real issues. And the thing is, they're feeling the real issues. The real issues are affecting them, and they're trying to work out why. What is it? And the right will always try and find scapegoats to point at. It always does it. And like, as I've learned more, as I've read the book from George Monbois, The Hidden Ideology of Neoliberalism, Yanis, I can never say his name, Vokoris or whatever, his book, Feudalism, I kind of realized like the argument should be about economics. The more I learn about the left and right economic theories, the more evidence that I can see that left-wing economics tends to result in better growth and prosperity for all people. Our system currently is great for the 1%. It's great for the ultra-wealthy because it monopolizes money into few hands. When you don't have rules to regulate certain businesses, when you tax people less and less, it becomes this like race to the bottom. And there's a funny reason as to why I believe in these kind of left-wing values, and it ties back to my original right-wing ideology, is because of meritocracy. The right always claim to believe in meritocracy, that we should, as a society, reward people who are good at things, right? And I genuinely believe that. However, I don't believe meritocracy exists when some people can inherit the best education, eat the best foods, have time to
Real?
do sports, be
Real?
healthy, have time
Real?
to learn the oboe and the trombone whilst doing the Free Peaks challenge. That
Real?
person has such an incredible advantage over the person at the bottom of the hierarchy.
But yeah, now you could see, like, we have truly reached synthesis. Thanks, Hegel.
Person who grew up in poverty, whose dad's in jail, whose mum has to work 3 jobs, that person who then has to leave home at 16 to pay rent and they can't afford to save a single penny. And the fact that this group of people that are living like this is growing, child poverty is growing, I think it's utterly insane to pretend that there is a meritocracy.
Happening all over the place.
But the right wing, through a very concerted effort, has
Thanks,
brainwashed
Thatcher and
most of
Reagan.
society to believe that this is
two
inevitable.
fucking
This
pieces of
we
shit.
can't fix this. There's nothing we can do about this. But we know we can. We have in the past. Countries do right now. And so that is where I land. If it means that I now have to wear a badge to show I'm part of the woke brigade, so be it.
That's
I've
kind of
accepted
woke
that
of you,
through
say,
actually
shaking my head.
delving into this stuff, looking into social economic problems, reading papers from academics, not listening to Jordan Peterson tell me that the academia world is overrun by Marxists. I've learned some stuff
Real.
and I've challenged my way of viewing the world and had to challenge my ego at the same time. So I want to know you guys' evolution. Like, have you always believed in what you believe? Has it ever changed? What changed it? So drop that in the comments below. Join the Discord.
And that is that. So, conclusion. Conclusion. I mean, I've said all my fucking points, obviously. We understand fundamentally why the right wing is the way that it is, why it often uses culture wars, talking points, in order to push particular sort of narratives and stuff, obviously, because if they are truthful with what they actually believe in, it's not popular, it's not palatable. People will fucking hate it. And they will disagree with it. They'll be like, no. Absolutely the fuck not. I will not tolerate any of this bullshit. Simply put, obviously. And they just do this because it's just like, well, you know, we need to think about, we need to only think about the maintenance of the hierarchies. Capitalists always have to be on top in order to oppress, you know, minorities, the poor people, blah, 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 blah. The same central point that I've sort of reiterated over and over and over again during this whole video. Because, you know, a funny little guy with a funny big old beard and funny looking hair said, like, actually, the maintenance of this hierarchy is the main fucking problem. We should probably be done away with it all. And, you know, we'll probably see much more equitable outcomes for everyone across the fucking world. But the right wing obviously can't have that because, again, first principle, maintenance of hierarchy. Capitalists have to be good as a first principle because they're the ones who have all the power. Men have to be good as a first principle because they're the ones who have the power. It's a subservience to power, like, honestly, in the end of it. In the end of it all, it's all about subservience to power, obviously. And maintenance of these ideas, maintenance of this hierarchy. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it. Overall, it's a good video, you know. I didn't really want to include it in my sort of Attack on Gamergate arc series. I explained this already. Because, first off, the time frame in which Jimmy got radicalized into the alt-right didn't really sort of fit with the timeline that I was mostly looking to tackle. But it overall talked about good points, sort of like general politics-wise, that I think are valuable to get out there and talk about. Like, main fundamental underlying reasonings for as to why the right wing engages in the politics that they fundamentally engage in. They never want to talk about economics. They only want to talk about culture because, well, fundamentally, they don't have any culture of their own, and they're really upset about that. And they know that if they're truthful and honest with the things that they really believe in, It's not going to be palatable at all to the general populace. There's a reason why, generally speaking, a lot of the right wing, a lot of the far right, is not overall generally popular with the general populace. Generally speaking, they're not. They're always a minority. It's because the things they really do believe in, if you know about it, if you've even done a little bit of digging into it, and do like a little bit of just critical thinking, it's abhorrent. It's dog shit. It's terrible. And everyone knows it. Which is why they have to kowtow everything they say in culture war sort of framing and talking points at all times. They have to. With any fucking issue. It's not just economics. Although obviously it all leads back up there. You know, again, we're doing the sort of Marxist critique here. It all ends up being about economics in the end, obviously. But they have to do it about literally everything. You know, the maintenance of security apparatus, social issues, LGBTQ issues, trans people, whatever. They have to do all their fucking talking points, culture war talking points, to maintain the hierarchy that is already in place, that they're on top of, and they're benefiting the most of. So they'll do anything, pay any price to maintain it.